Yeah, like couch co-op is just gone because we don't use happiness as a metric. We use engagement as a metric, which is how much you're using it. And we use retention as a metric, which means you're coming back. But like, you could be addicted low key and not be happy.
How's it going, everybody? My name is DuShaun Williams. This is Gaming Over 30 at GDC, and I'm here with another person that I've been wanting to talk to almost all week, and I'm glad you're able to sit with me today. Dennis Gilham?
Dennis Gilham, that's right.
I was afraid I was not going to get that, but Dennis, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yo, it's good to be on here, man. It's good to be here.
So I have to ask, the first question I asked everybody so far, what's the last game you played?
The last game I played, it's funny that we're here at GDC and I haven't really played too many games. I was on the expo floor testing out the Pico headsets, and they had I wanted to test out to see if I would get motion sick in their headsets.
Yeah.
So like I grabbed the beer at the Epic booth to like add even more dimension to that challenge, to add more nausea. Mm-hmm. So I was playing some kind of shooting game that they had there. It was like a Counter-Strike type game in VR.
Yeah.
And the bots kept killing each other, so I never even got a kill. But before that, I'm a really big Overwatch 2 player, and I just recently hit Plat, and I think DPS. So I'm working my way back up to Diamond.
And, you know, we're in GDC today, and I've been able to talk to a lot of people in the industry, some people not, but still supporting it. But you are actually a speaker at GDC, and your talk is actually sometime after this. How do you feel about it?
My talk is like in about, 3 hours? I don't know what time it is right now, but my talk's at 3 o'clock. My story, I've been telling my story a lot, and the way I even got on this panel was just by telling my story to the people who sponsored this talk. So I don't feel nervous at all, and I'm actually pretty excited for people to hear what I have to say. I feel really validated, and I'm looking forward to that applause later.
You're definitely going to get it. I have no problem with that. But I think I want to probably kind of steal some of that thunder. Here, this is going to come out so much later anyway.
Hey, dude.
But, you know, like when you're kind of dealing with gaming today, do you feel like you have to alter your relationship with it a little bit? Like, do you have time to game with particular position?
I definitely don't game. So my position, I'm a product manager at Electronic Arts. I work in a Positive Play group. It's like a content moderation type of group. Well, at least that's what I currently do.
Yeah.
Focus on trust and safety, content moderation.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say now that I am in game development, I used to be in aerospace prior to this career.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely played games a lot less, and I feel healthier now that I do. Like when I was in aerospace, I used to play games like 3 hours a day, like 50, 3 times 7 is like 21, so like 20 hours a week I would play. But now I play roughly like 5 to 10 hours a week, and I think it's a lot better to play less and go out and touch grass more and meet people more. You have to meet people and understand your target audience if you're a game developer.
It could definitely go the other way too, because it's like, if you think about like the fact that you're always interacting with people, you're always talking, you're always trying to share like your opinions and really your experiences a lot. Gaming naturally takes, you know, a back seat from all that, because it is very optional. No matter how much we actually love it, sometimes life just kind of gets ahead of us and stuff. And so it's pretty interesting to kind of really kind of give into that. But I do like the fact that you're kind of recognizing both sides a little bit, because it is healthy to make sure we kind of have it, you know, unlocked. Like we understand how much we're actually playing, but it's also nice to understand that it's good that you're still doing it, right? Like even when you're surrounded by games, especially with the publisher that you have, it's nice that you're still like, I can do this amount of time, but I got to put some importance with people as well as video games.
Absolutely.
So as an Overwatch player, though, that means that you probably like playing multiplayer games. And so does your reduction in games in that aspect also further reduce how you play multiplayer? Maybe you might have some single player that kind of bring in the buffer on that.
My job focuses on reducing toxicity in online gaming. And we know that competitive online gaming tends to be some of the most toxic areas. You have competitive online gaming, and there's not competitive spaces where you're playing in social lobbies and people can be pretty mean to each other. Mm-hmm. And so I would say like playing competitive Overwatch it scratches an itch that I have to play competitive games, period. Mm-hmm. But also I get to understand like what players feel when they are in these type of areas and what kind of features we could build in order to make gaming a safer place. But when I'm not doing all that, it's nice to play single player games. It's nice to play cozy games and just like to relieve my stress and to like not have to think about saving the world like I typically do on a daily basis.
Was the reason why you kind of got into the space of like trying to not only just reduce toxicity, but promote positive communities and stuff? Was that because you were playing multiplayer games for so long? You're like, you know what, I could kind of make a difference? Or did you see like an opportunity where you're like, you know what, I can do that?
Do you want to
Sure.
Do you want to understand why I got into this position?
Actually, I do. We've been kind of creeping into it a little bit, but I'm actually very interested in how you got into the game industry.
So this is a little bit of a long story, but I hope we have time. I've been a gamer like since I was like 3 years old. Like my parents, they were both working parents. Dad's a carpenter, mom's a teacher, working 9-to-5 jobs. And for those of you who understand like that experience, your parents are too busy to really be present sometimes. So like they enrich my education through video games. So I grew up on Rita Rabbit, Math Blasters, Pajama Sam.
But bring some stuff up.
I grew up on all of that. And like I noticed that like I was really into those types of games. And in the classes that I was in, like from pre-K to 5th grade, my parents kept giving me those type of educational games, and I found myself a lot more ahead of my class because I was getting that extra education at home that in other households possibly the parents would be more present to provide. Like I remember my dad having Dr. Seuss books and teaching me how to read, but those educational video games, they cemented those learnings even further. When I was 7 years old, I went to like my first arcade, and that was like, it was like going to Disney World. It felt like it was full of overstimulation, just like all these sounds and all these like flashing lights, and every single game was a totally new experience. And since 7 years old, I've been trying to figure out a way to be in a space where I can do something like that all the time and get paid to do it. But like most of us, I'm 30 years old, and for most millennials, we grew up, and most millennials growing up in Yonkers, New York, I'll be specific because there's plenty of people out here who have been completely encouraged to be a game developer. They didn't see game development as a way to make it out. My mom, she definitely grew up in poverty. My dad grew up poverty adjacent. And so they saw like being a doctor, being a lawyer, being an engineer as a way to make it out and a way to secure a lifestyle to raise a family on. And so I follow that path. And I have many interests. When I was in high school, I used to be on my school's robotics team, and that I went to New York Institute of Technology to study electrical and computer engineering. And I wanted to be an engineer, and I wanted to work on robots. I wanted to bring Gundams to life. And so in America, at least, the biggest robots that you could work on is either in space or in aerospace. And so I did the aerospace route, and I took a job as assistant engineer at Northrop Grumman. And my mom both parents raised me to be very socially aware, and I always wanted to choose a job that would have a deep social impact. And when I was a teenager, I was heavily into the military, so I wanted to choose a job that I felt like would serve the country, and I didn't want to be boots on the ground, so I thought, okay, serving in the defense industry would be my way of serving my country. And it is a way to serve your country, but it is not entirely a safe space for Black people, especially not in the era where Trump was president. I'll say it like that. And so seeing that, and even seeing like, you know, how Trump left office and how he caused January 6th, seeing how the summer of unrest or 2020 when the George Floyd protests happened, I saw how unsafe the online spaces were. During like my time in aerospace, I was a streamer, and I had many different perspectives on how being an online personality could make you personally unsafe. I saw how women would be treated online using voice comms, et cetera, et cetera. So I saw that there was an opportunity to make online spaces safer, and I looked for jobs in that area, and I was able to find that home with EA.
Do you feel that the younger you that was so entrusted in gaming would kind of like the way that you're kind of handling stuff today?
Absolutely. I reflect upon what would the 8-year-old me, the 16-year-old me, like what would that person, the 21-year-old me, all of those people, what would they think of Dennis Gilham at 30 today? Like I'm 30 years old as of December 28th, 2022.
And dude, you're doing pretty good for being 30. I'm messing up.
Hey, I got a dad bod too. I reflect upon that all the time. Like I feel like I'm living out the dreams of that younger self. And every time when I reached a finish line, I get to a space where I'm thinking to myself, now what? What are the dreams that my current self has now? Like, what is the next step? So I think those younger pieces of me, they would be very proud. Now that I have adult money, I'm buying all the toys that I was envious that my friends had when I was younger. So younger me would be very proud.
So how do you deal with gaming with like your friends nowadays? Like, do you have like the boys group? Are you in a group, or is it still like, for me to control gaming, I have to go solo for a little bit.
How old is your audience right now?
Our audience is normally between the 18 to 35. They are pretty much in that spot where when you turn 18, you start diverging in a lot in your life. And the thing that replaced school, where school kind of gave you the ability to like bring like social activities, games and stuff into that aspect, it now have to be completely removed.
So I am single, I am 30 years old, and I'm an adult. And so with like most adults, our social circles tend to be very superficial. Many people in our age group, we have like friends like under like 2 digits. There's only like very few people that we trust or come into contact to because we're so busy with work. So when it comes to gaming, I'm typically gaming solo. Like maybe there's friends from back in college or friends I met here at GDC that we'll link up and we'll game with online. But those days of like gaming in person especially, man, those days are over. I do remember like the last time I've gamed like in person, maybe I had a date come over and we played Overcooked together. And that's pretty nice. But one of my boys, his name is Hakar Torres. He came over to my place when Pokemon Legends Arceus came out. And it's a single player game, but he and I both sat on one of my couches, separate. He sat on the couch, I sat on another, and we played for like 8 hours straight, just talking back and forth, like, ooh, I caught this, ooh, I caught that. If you go over here, you can catch this. And so, like those days, that used to be very common in the 90s to have couch co-op, and for whatever reason, it's like game developers have like designed that out of their games, I guess because the internet is so much greater and people can stay isolated and game from thousands of miles away.
I think it's really like the scalability of it, right? Like now that when online became a big thing, like especially outside of the Blockbuster area of gaming where everybody would always go to Blockbuster, we didn't really own anything, but we had the chance to play a lot of different games for like the different consoles. Got into that console war. Now every console's like really like, I got the title, please come over here. Well, I got the stuff, come over here. Now we're bringing in like, okay, online is for everything. And then we broke it even further and we're like, okay, now we need crossplay. Because at this point, we've already hit the ceiling of multiplayer, online multiplayer, but now it needs to be even more massive than it was before.
I mean, let's talk about it. I don't know how deep you want to go, but stop me if I'm going too deep. I think it is great that technology has scaled to the point where we could be anywhere in the world and play with each other. I think it's amazing how we could have PUBG Mobile and PUBG Console and PUBG PC all play on the same servers.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a product of using revenue as a core KPI, key performance indicator, as a core metric. Revenue is a core metric of success and not happiness. Anecdotally, in my opinion, I have the most fun when I'm playing couch co-op. Playing online games is pretty fun, but when I have someone right next to me, like my enjoyment is like amplified even further. And that's why live events haven't gone anywhere. Like you could have Travis Scott, Ariana Grande, and Fortnite having a concert, but nothing beats being there in person, especially when Travis Scott is causing stampedes. But that's another story. Yeah, like couch co-op is just gone because we don't use happiness as a metric. We use engagement as a metric, which is how much you're using it. We use retention as a metric, which means you're coming back. But like, you could be addicted low key and not be happy. I feel like we should start using like actual qualitative happiness as a metric when we're measuring our games. And if we use that, in my opinion, I think couch co-op will come back, arcades will come back. Well, like we won't just have strip malls that just sell you stuff, but that sell actual experiences that you enjoy together. I think that's why like escape rooms are so popular, because they're experiences that you can come together and enjoy at the same time. So I hope that our society starts moving back in that direction where we really gauge each other and ask each other, are you happy? And what can we do to be happier people?
Dennis, this has been a really great conversation. But really kind of get into a lot about just a different side of people I've interviewed a lot of people today, but a lot of them just have a different story. But it's nice to see someone whose story kind of hits on a real big issue on a lot of stuff. And it's just not, people just thinking like it's all, roses and stuff. But it's still nice that even with all that, the way that you kind of grew up, and even if whether you have struggles or not, that you still have gaming in your life, you're still trying to work it, and you're in a position where you could try to do something even positive as a, wide spectrum of it. So kind of getting to the end of this, because honestly, me and you can probably have a longer conversation. I might have
to got memory to record, bro. I'll keep talking.
Honestly, I might have to just invite you to the actual Friday one and have you just live on air to kind of do it.
Okay.
Because I think in this conversation, with a lot of other stuff that we want to get into, I think you do have a nice perspective of that. So
I appreciate it.
If you're open to it, I already extend the invitation.
I appreciate that. I hope you guys feel the same way.
So with the last thing, though, is I ask this for everybody else kind of coming out of here. How do you really see gaming today? Like, now you're looking at it, it has very much changed. We've gone to several areas of just how gaming is transformed. But how do you see gaming today as the older you now?
I don't think my opinion is unique. And the proof of that is the fact that I've got hired into a role that analyzes how happy or unhappy people are, how disruptive or how socially engaged people are, and we are analyzing that as a metric for success. So I think that, gaming 10 years ago wasn't like that at all. Like, mobile gaming was all about get people into games, get them super engaged, low-key addicted, throw ads at them and monetize them, and that games are a way to monetize. Games are a way to build revenue and not a form of entertainment. Yeah. I still believe as gaming as an art form, and the reason why I love gaming is because you can essentially virtually recreate the world you want to see. You can, and make it fun and make it interactive. Other art forms are like visual, or you can feel it. I guess like performing arts, you can feel it, but like virtual environments, we're slowly getting to a space where we're going to be able to engage all five. I believe we have more than 5 senses, but we'll be able to engage all 5 senses.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll say it like that. So I believe gaming is heading into a very positive direction, and I hope that there's other people like me who see it that way, and I hope that we continue to speak and influence others to push gaming towards a space where it is an entertainment platform, it is an art form, and that we are looking at making people happy and more wholesome and making the world a better place, as opposed to as a means to just make money.
Dennis, I really appreciate it. I really do. So you gave me something incredibly invaluable. Allow me to give you 30 seconds to say anything that you want. The floor is 100% yours.
I think something that I grew up, the pressure that I grew up with is I felt like I always had to choose between, am I black or am I an engineer? Am I black or am I a game developer? And the jobs that I would choose, I would try to combine both, where I can be both people in both spaces, where I can advocate for black people when I was an engineer, advocate for black people as a game developer. And I truly envision a world where people don't have to deal with the problems that I'm dealing with, where I felt like I had to choose. So I hope all of you listeners who are watching, listening, whatever you may be doing, I hope you heed this advice, and I hope you help me create the world that we all want to see, where we can all just be our own identities and just work in the spaces that we want to work in and love what we love, enjoy what we enjoy. But I do need your help in order to see that happen. So I hope to be back here in future talks. And if you guys want to follow me, feel free to follow me at LinkedIn, look me up, Dennis Gilham, look for this beautiful face, or look me up all social media at Syphorce, Syphorce. You'll find me there.